Yeah, the Centre for Community Journalism sits within the School of Journalism, Media and Culture Studies at Cardiff University. And whilst we're part of the school, we sit separately in that we work with communities right across Wales, hands-on, UK and the world. So we're building a global network of hyperlocals, which a hyperlocal is a community news site. So the centre was the brainchild of Professor Justin Lewis, who was the head of school at the time. And he was fed up of going to conferences and seminars and everyone saying, oh, you know, the local journalism was dying and, you know, and that the quality of news and newspapers were closing everywhere. And he said, well, why don't we do something positive about it? And why don't we try and help and support the people who are trying to resurrect local news? So I'm really glad he did, because I got my job, and that was 2 years ago. And since then we moved on in leaps and bounds, because we are now one of the Vice Chancellors in 5 engagement projects within the university. So we're committed to setting up and running and sustaining 10 hyperlocal news sites in Wales. And we're on our 3rd already, so we try and make them different. So we've got communities of interest, we've got a Welsh language one, we're doing the first ever digital newspaper for the Eisteddfod, so that's an event-based newspaper. But what really kind of turned a corner for us was we did a MOOC, which is a massive open online course last year in partnership with the Open University, which is on the Future Learn platform. And we did that thing of kind of working on the course, and it was a 5-week course, and, you know, about 4 to 5 hours learning, distance learning for people that participated. And we did that thing of kind of thinking, oh, is anybody going to come? And we're delighted to say they kind of, you know, on the first morning we sat there biting our nails going, oh, you know, have we spread the word enough? And it was absolutely phenomenal. We had learners, over 9,000 learners from 118 different countries, and their stories were absolutely amazing. So we gave free training and support and information, and there was, you know, we were kind of doing the hands-on feedback for the duration of the course. So that's going to run again next year. So that's a completely free tool for anyone. So if they go onto our website, which is communityjournalism.co.uk, then the resources, a lot of the information is going to be free for anybody, and the skills are really transferable. What we are about is, even though we kind of deal in journalism, it's about building communities. So whatever you do in a community, it's about reaching out, knowing your audience, tone of voice, speaking to them, and it's all about building community, which fits in really well with the Connected Communities event. So we're glad to be here.
And is what you're doing predominantly online in terms of these communities?
In Wales, we're very hands-on, but obviously we're only there's a team of, you know, a handful of us at the moment. So we are trying build. So we've got a global network. So if anybody goes onto our website, they can register their hyperlocal, and a hyperlocal can be a community of interest as well. So we do have communities of interest as well as geographical communities. And I'm delighted to say there's loads of pins all over the map. So please kind of go on there, and then you join this network. So it's online for anybody globally, but we also offer training and support. So we run training courses, so people can come face to face and get training courses. Details of that will be on the website as well. So we try and do hands-on however much as we can, but geographically it tends to be mainly in Wales, and we do everything bilingually as well. So we kind of work, you know, with minority languages. Although saying that, we are looking to go and set up a hyperlocal in Namibia next year in partnership with another school in the university. So.
Right. And where you get these hyperlocal communities, while they're getting their information online from your project, in general, are you finding that they're delivering what they do into their hyperlocal community in print or in digital media?
It's mainly digital media, but we're seeing a shift back to print because nobody has found the recipe for a successful business model for local news. And at the moment, you know, a lot of the ideas are based on advertising and the old business model. So that's one of our aims at the centre, is to find a sustainable business model for local news. But that's the holy grail. That's what everybody's looking for. So we are finding it's really interesting that more people are going back. But instead of paid publications, they're free publications. But at least they can tell the advertiser, I can guarantee you 20,000 eyeballs on this advert. So it's monetizing. It's monetizing it is the main thing. But we're looking at tools as well. So we've got in beta testing, we've got a tool as well, which I don't want to say too much about, but if you keep an eye on the website, which is a way of connecting different communities where they can come come along and just give information to their local news site. So instead of just putting it on Facebook or Twitter and putting it out in the kind of, stratosphere for anybody to read or see, it goes through to the hyperlocal team, and then they don't have to go looking for news. It comes to them. They just spend their spare time, because they tend to be volunteers. So of an evening, the news comes to them, and they can verify, they can report, and they can publish, as opposed to running around scrabbling for stories. So sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's really interesting because while you were talking, I realised that my middle daughter is actually running a hyperlocal, one of those specifically because they've just set up. We live in the town of Yateley, and they've set up the Yateley online magazine, and they're looking at this. They must be in touch with you, but they're struggling with the same issues, which are, how do you monetize this and run it as a business? And certainly, because I have some background in that area, the issue that they face is that the monetization model is still the old-fashioned model, while the delivery model is digital. And if you look at the old-fashioned model of monetization, it is based on advertising. And so you find a lot of these very local, historic types of journalists, if you will, end up being really just a directory of who's available in the local community with one or two articles. And it seemed to me that the new people coming in are much more passionate. It's almost as if the old model has become a bit boring and staid, so that everybody's just going advertising one or two articles and we're good. And now they're trying to actually get people enthusiastic about what's going on in the community. So they're actually putting in more content, and it's the content that's driving the whole thing rather than the advertising.
And that's what we thought of with the tool, is that whenever, because the initial project was an AHRC funded project through React, and we thought when we were looking at, it was the books and prints React round, and when we were looking at what people are interested in, it's almost the sexier side to look at monetizing it and selling it, and how do you make money out of this. And we kind of thought of it as, let's go rewind a bit and let's look at the content coming in. And if people are working a full-time job, sitting down in the evening, scrabbling around for content, then it's not going to be a brilliant product. So let's look at building a tool which will help them get really good content in, and then you've got a better product, which is more likely that people will want to read it, which means you've got, more likely that people will want to buy it. But it's the same with the music industry. If you look at, they've built their entire industry on record sales, and people buy in records, and you can get it all streamed for free now online. So how do you make money out of it? So it's happening in industries everywhere because of digitization. The one thing that you do still have is you can go back to your old CDs. When a local newspaper closes, that's it, it's gone, because yesterday's news is yesterday's news. And equally, we kind of fighting with the fact that everybody gets information online. But I think there's been a sea of change lately in that, you get spotted pages popping up on Facebook, and everyone's a publisher. Anyone can send a tweet or Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat. However, does that mean that information is correct? And you see all these kind of Twitter rumours and viral stories, and then they emerge a few days later that was fake. So that's what this brings it back to, is you still need that element of journalism, because if you want the real story, you still need it to be verified and accurate. So
you need credibility.
Yeah, absolutely, credibility, and that's the key thing. If you haven't got credibility, you haven't got anything. So we try and do a real mix of, we want to be open and accessible to anyone. So your daughter certainly needs to register, because we send a monthly newsletter out with them. We try and find out anything that's happening in the industry. When we work with projects like this, so the Creative Citizens Project is on the stand with us as well, and they're an AHRC funded project where they're looking at sort of connected communities, but they've got a strand of journalism and hyperlocal journalism. So we learn, so the research, we're very unique in that we've got the research project that goes on in the school, and the learning from that we actually take hands-on into communities, and the things that we get told in communities and what works and what doesn't, we kind of take back and go, well, how can we help with that then? And then we'll roll that out. So even though we kind of get the hands-on experience more locally, we kind of try and spread the expertise as far reaching as we possibly can.
Good, Emma, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you make lots of contacts here.
So do I.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's all from...